proud to be a Hoop Empire fan.
The NBA is in an absolute frenzy, and the Los Angeles Clippers are at the center of a storm that could ruin their franchise forever. Steve Ballmer, the team's owner and one of the richest men in the world, just went on national television to defend himself, but the details that have since emerged are far more damning than anyone expected. Did the Clippers pay Kawhi Leonard $48 million through a shadowy shell company to get around the league's salary cap? If they did, we could see a level of punishment the NBA hasn't handed down in decades. Draft picks docked, Kawhi forced to leave, and one reporter even suggests Ballmer himself could be forced to sell the team. But a crazy new detail has come out that may just save them from the worst of it. It all started with Pablo Torre's bombshell report. He exposed a scandal hidden inside the bankruptcy filings of a company called Aspiration, a so-called green financial services firm. Court documents revealed that Aspiration owed a company called KL2 Aspire LLC a massive $7 million. The manager of that company? None other than Kawhi Leonard. What's more, the document showed that Leonard was owed a total of $28 million over 4 years for what Pablo described as a no-show job. He didn't take a single photo, shoot a commercial, or make a public appearance for the company. The only stipulation? He had to be an employee of the Clippers to keep getting the checks. If he was no longer with the team, Aspiration had the right to terminate the contract. An ex-employee of the firm even admitted that even while the company was going bankrupt, their #1 priority was making sure Kawhi got his money. But that wasn't the whole story. A new report from Boston Sports Journal just dropped in even more explosive detail. According to a high-level source, Leonard also cut a side deal to receive another $20 million in company stock. That brought the total promised compensation to Leonard to a staggering $48 million. It's an almost perfect match for the $50 million Steve Ballmer had personally invested in Aspiration. So Ballmer puts in $50 million, and Aspiration sends $48 million to Kawhi. The paper trail looks so obvious, so ridiculously blatant, but unfortunately, there's one tiny detail that might save the Clippers and Kawhi from a serious punishment.
This whole thing has people going back to the beginning. The rumor mill always said that the reason Kawhi didn't sign with the Lakers or the Raptors in 2019 was because his uncle was looking for sketchy deals on the side. But the Aspiration deal didn't happen until 2021. So does the timeline disprove the conspiracy? Absolutely not. The Clippers and Ballmer aren't that stupid. They knew the scrutiny was high in 2019. The smartest move was to wait until the initial heat died down. Then, in August of 2021, Ballmer wires Aspiration a ridiculous $50 million. A month later, the Clippers and Aspiration announce a huge partnership. And just weeks after that, Kawhi suspiciously signs a new 4-year, team-friendly contract. How convenient. The whole thing was only exposed because the company then went bankrupt, and all of their deals, including the one with Kawhi, became public record. Now, while everyone is digging the Clippers' grave, former Mavericks owner Mark Cuban randomly came to their defense. He said, "I'm on Team Ballmer. Steve isn't that dumb. If he did try to feed Kawhi money, knowing what was at stake for him personally and his team, do you think he'd let the company go bankrupt, knowing all creditors would be visible to the world?" Yeah, Mark, he would, because the paper trail unfortunately proves nothing. And look, I hate to say this because it is so obvious that the Clippers broke the rules, but Ballmer's chilling. I mean, do you think he's going to bail out a scam company for hundreds of millions of dollars just to cover his tracks? He knows this won't take him down. For starters, it is incredibly common for a player to be sponsored by the same company that sponsors his team. LeBron has a deal with Crypto.com, which sponsors the Lakers arena. Steph works with Chase, the Dubs arena sponsor. Kawhi being sponsored by Aspiration proves nothing on its own. It's shady, but that's it. And all Kawhi had to do to cover his tracks was take a couple of photos or make one commercial, but for some reason, he did nothing. You can't punish someone for being stupid.
In fact, The Athletic's Ethan Strauss pushed Pablo Torre on this. He said, "Pablo, great report, but what is the worst piece of evidence that you found?" Pablo's shocking answer? Literally the fact that we had 7 sources, including one on tape, saying we were told it was to circumvent the salary cap. What they do not have is Steve Ballmer putting it in an email, "This was to circumvent the salary cap, period, send." And yeah, that would be so dumb. No one would ever do that. I mean, you'd be crazy to expect to find that in writing. But actually, the comparison everybody makes here is the Joe Smith Timberwolves scandal, where the Timberwolves got wrecked by the league. But they were stupid enough to put their whole scheme in writing. The NBA investigated and found a secret written agreement between the Wolves and Joe Smith. It said they would pay him a future contract worth up to $86 million if he signed cheap deals to preserve cap space. So yeah, it would be shocking if Steve Ballmer wrote this in an email, but he didn't. And dude learned this a long time ago. Back in 2015, Ballmer put it in writing that they would hook up DeAndre Jordan with a Lexus deal to pay him a little something on the side. Well, the NBA found that and docked him $250,000. So from that day on, do you think Ballmer is ever going to put a shady deal in writing again? No. And that's why the NBA was able to come down that hard on the Timberwolves back in the day. Unfortunately, all we have here is an ex-employee who said, "We also have a deal with Kawhi Leonard. If I had any questions about it, don't, because it was to circumvent the salary cap. Lol." Yeah, that's bad. Obviously, the Clippers did this. I'm not saying they didn't, but you can't prove anything based on that. All this proves is that Aspiration was run by stupid, scammy people who decided to pay Kawhi a shady deal. And that's exactly what Steve Ballmer just told ESPN to defend himself. I don't know why they did what they did, and frankly, any speculation would be crazy. These were guys who committed fraud. How would I be able to predict why they might have done anything they did? Yep, it's the same Mark Cuban theory. It's what he's going to tell the NBA when they ask. As long as they can't prove it, like they did with Joe Smith, in writing, it's his word against Pablo's. I mean, yeah, it's weird that they gave Kawhi all that money to do nothing, but I don't control what they do. Plus, those guys are scammers. Who knows why they did anything? Oh, but what happens if Adam Silver is like, "Yeah, I don't care what we can prove. Obviously, you broke the rules. We are coming down hard." Well, Steve Ballmer is worth $150 billion, and he will sue them. And do you think the other 29 owners want their own business then to all come out in open court? Pablo already said he is getting tips about Jalen Brunson's deal in New York. Brunson signed maybe the most team-friendly deal of all time. Dude left potentially $100 million on the table to help the Knicks. Was a shady deal agreed upon there too? What other deals are out there that we don't know about?
So as much as I hate to say this, even though it is so obvious that the Clippers were scamming the NBA, unless they can prove it like they did with Joe Smith, I don't think LA gets anything like a serious punishment. Yes, obviously the Clippers did the wrong thing. They broke the rules. They should be punished. But the most they have is an ex-anonymous employee saying they were circumventing the salary cap, and that Aspiration and Steve Ballmer are in business together. Again, it's shady, it's obvious, but it doesn't prove anything. Maybe they get a little fine, and maybe there's a new rule that players can't be sponsored by a company that also sponsors their team. But the death penalty? Not gonna happen. Thanks for watching. Remember to like and subscribe to the channel.